are engaged in. This insurgency, banditry, and all the rest involve locals. And in fact, this particular situation that we are talking about is where the bandits have used human shield. They are using the public, the citizens, as human shield. They go and mix up with the, locals, and then in case you attack them, then you also will attack ordinary citizens. So we need to talk to locals. We need to have agents on ground, to cultivate some of them in such a way that if there is an attack going to preeminent attack that is going to happen, then they should be able to transmit it to, the control center where the attack started. And then, of course, they will also learn how to isolate the terrorists from the bandits, the terrorists from the public. So these are things to be done. And when you do that, then you will know that whichever attack you carry out is carried out precisionally. There have to be serious precision, especially when you are dealing with predator drones.
Okay, the military announced a compensation plan for the deceased families. Well, know that no amount can wipe out the indelible trauma on the families who have lost their loved ones to this ugly and unfortunate mishap. What kind of compensation plan do you think the government can put in place that will go a long way and bring some sort of succor to the families, the affected families?
One thing is this, even the natives that were there, the community people there, were not actually looking for compensation. It is the military and the security agencies, after their meeting on yesterday, decided that, look, some of the people who are dead are breadwinners of this community, although they don't want any kind of compensation, because some of them, especially those of them who are Muslims, were saying that is the will of Allah, but there is a need to help them at least get through this particular problem, medically and of course otherwise, to keep them, from suffering what has happened. So they can do that. And at the same time, there are other things they could do, and which is major, and that is try and clear out the bandits. Clear them out. We've been fighting these bandits for years, and look at where it has brought us to. We need to clear them out right from when former President Buhari was in power. These bandits have been there.
As a security expert, are you talking about clearing them out? How can they do this? How can they find a lasting solution to clearing these bandits out? Because it's been a major menace in the country.
Well, I think one of the ways of clearing them out is what happened on Sunday night, whereby they were, attacking them and then, trying to decimate their numbers. And of course, the military has got some wins. This is not even the first one. They've got some wins where they've even captured their leaders, decimated them where they were hiding in their enclaves and stuff like that. That can be done. Number two is the dialogue side of it, where I don't think it worked out very well. Talk with them and then send them out of the country, because some of them are not from this country. They are not Nigerians. So there is need also to make sure, maybe we can use the carrot and stick that the military is using now, deal with them up to the extent that they are ready to talk, and then when they are ready to talk, tell them that, okay, it's high time you will leave this place alone.
Thank you so much, Mr. Dennis Amakri.
Thank you for having me.
We've been discussing with Dennis Amakri on the issue of the bombardment that happened in Kaduna State. Moving on to other stories. Imo State Police Command said its operatives have killed the commander of the indigenous people of Biafra IPOB, ESN, Eastern Security Network, and wounded others in a gun duel at their hideout at Umuogo, Amuzu in Abombise local government area of the state. The suspect, who was not named, was said to be second in command of a deadly kingpin Ebube virus. In a statement by the police spokesman Henry Okoye on Tuesday, December 5, they neutralized IPOB ESN commander and fleeing bandits were allegedly involved in the killing of the DPO of Ahiazum Mbise. He said the bandits were responsible for most of the dastardly attacks committed along the Mbise axis. He said that an operation was in progress to track down other fleeing suspects and make them face the full wrath of the law. He appealed to owners of hospitals and first aid outlets to report any person seen treating gunshot injuries to the nearest police station. Terrorists have killed one person and abducted 8 passengers returning from an installation ceremony in Borgu local government area of Niger State. The installation ceremony the victims attended was that of the chairman of Borgu Kingmakers and chief priest Bakarabonde. The chairman of Borgu local government area, Alhaji Sulaiman Yerima, while confirming the incident, stated that the terrorists contacted him asking for a ransom of 17 million naira to secure the release of the abductees. In an effort to rid the state of crime and criminalities, Rivers State Commissioner of Police Olatunji Disu paraded 2 wanted leaders of Debam and Iceland cult groups in Ogoni axis of the state. The 2 gang leaders was paraded alongside a number of suspects for a variety of crimes ranging from kidnapping, armed robbery, and murder, among others. Among them, however, are the leaders of the notorious Debam and Iceland cult groups who are accused of burying their Community Development Committee CDC chairman alive in Kana local government area.
Intense surveillance on the 15th November. In separate crack operations, men of the anti-cultism unit arrested Bradidop Igia, 33 years old, male, and Elvis Gordon, 26 years old, 2 suspected armed robbers and kidnappers in Kerene Bua community of Kana local government area. After a series of interrogation, the 2 of them confessed to being leaders of Asland and Degbam cult groups in Kana local government areas, respectively, and have been terrorizing Kana local government area for the past 3 years. These cult groups have been known to have endless clashes in the community. During interrogation, they also admitted to killing and burying one Praise Dekian, a former CDC chairman in Kana local government area. They murdered the victim after collecting the sum of 200,000 naira as part of the payment of ransom for his life. Investigation is still ongoing to uncover the full scale of the suspect's operation.
The traditional ruler of Kirinken Bue community, however, displays photographs showing some of the dead victims of the cultists, even as it says the community had to flee because of them.
Yeah, the government have given us peace and we have submitted. Let bygone be bygone. So I don't expect why they are arresting us and giving us charge.
But they say you collected 200,000 ransom.
It was the community money that we contribute to him. 7 million naira. He now eat our money and use the money and fight against us.
Okay, is that the reason you revenge?
Yes.
I'm here to beg my chief and the community and citizens of Nigeria for them to have mercy upon me because I don't have job. I'm begging them. I will be a good citizen of my community. Please, I'm on my knees begging them every day. I've been in prison several times, so to go into prison now is not a game. I'm pleading. I will sign undertaking on their behalf.
With them, the community is not safe. The community is a community up over 8,000 plus population. But because of the activities of these young men, the community has been scared. We are not safe. And also one of the major roads that they are praying, they are about to cause war between the Andoni axis with us. So we are crying to the government today to save us.
Also displaced were weapons and ammunition recovered from the suspects. Another story, the President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio Stanley, cautioned ministries, departments and agency MDAs not to adopt a lackadaisical approach when justifying their budgets during a stakeholders retreat organized by the Committee on Appropriations. Represented by the Deputy Senate President, Senator Jibrin Barau, Akpabio emphasized the potential consequences of non-compliance by individuals or agencies in the eventual passage of the 2024 Appropriation Bill.
However, let me state clearly that the National Assembly will not tolerate attitude from government functionaries in all MDAs in relation to issues surrounding their defenses of submissions and our resolve to maintain the January to December budget cycle. I mean attitudes that are not in consonance with our zeal to the passage of budget, so that we maintain that cycle, our budget cycle of January to December of every year.
Meanwhile, the Minister of Finance, Wale Edun, stressed Nigeria's depleted fiscal space and the imperative need to focus on concessional funding and climate financing.
Just yesterday evening, the IMF Managing Director, her opening statement was that with all the shocks that the world has suffered, Ukraine, climate incidents, COVID, which effects are still being felt, that the fiscal space is exhausted. And we agree with that. I agree with that. Nigeria's fiscal space is exhausted. And the solution, as you probably heard earlier today, is that we have to focus on the concessional funding, the cheaper funding, the even free funding, and climate financing is the way.
Highlighting the proposed role of the budget in addressing the nation's economic challenges, Senator Solomon Olamilekan, chairman of the Senate Committee on Appropriation, underscored the event's significance. He emphasized its continuation from the 10th National Assembly's efforts to ensure an inclusive budget process for the nation and maintain the commitment to the January-December budget cycle.
The essence of this deliberation today is more than just discussion on figures and allocation. It is about ensuring that every naira allocated is purposefully directed towards the project and program that will improve the lives and aspirations of every Nigerian, guarantee our economic stability and growth, and overall build a better future for generations to come.
The chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, Ola Olukayode, is calling for increased budgetary allocation to intensify its fight against corruption in the country. He says this will enable the Commission to enhance its operations and effectively tackle the pervasive issue of corruption in the country. Olukayode made this demand at the Budget Defense in Abuja, while also emphasizing the urgent need for increased funding and oversight by the committee.
You have completed all the ongoing projects. Why the 60% reduction from what we had in 2023 to what we are having in 2024? I want to know if all the ongoing projects are already completed. I want to know the reason why this reduction. If you look at it, in 2023, you have 2,530,707,086.00. Now in 2024, you have 1,241,237,267.00. A difference of 1,200 and something, 80-something million thereabouts. So this is a very big shift from what you had in 2023.
Earlier, the chairman of the House Committee on Financial Crimes, Honorable Jinja Obinna, had noted that it is the responsibility of the committee to carry out oversight functions while promising to address loopholes in the agency.
We are going to work in collaboration with the committee. The job of the committee is to oversight, the implementation of this budget as well. So, step by step, point by point, monthly basis, quarterly basis, we will put mechanism in place to ensure that if we give you the opportunity to have your approval for our total proposal, we also want to confirm that it will be implemented to the last couple. Provided we have full releases for the money we are proposing, for the budget we are proposing. And the issue of non-release of capital in 2023, as I said earlier, that the few capital projects that we implemented in 2023, which we are still implementing, they were not executed out of the release that was given us under the 2023 capital goals. The capital projects executed in 2023 were the 2022 capital rollover.
In a bid to proffer a lasting solution to the consistent attacks on schools by kidnappers and bandits in the north-central geopolitical zone of the country, the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps has disclosed plans to organize a one-day sensitization workshop for personnel of security agencies in the region. According to the NSCDC, the workshop, which is expected to have 500 security personnel in attendance, will be held at the Government House, Lafia, on Thursday, December 7, 2023. The Commander National Safe Schools Response Coordination Center, CSC, Teso Shapira, made the disclosure during a press briefing on Tuesday in the Doma local government area of Nasarawa State. He explained that the attacks on many schools across the country necessitated the federal government to launch the program, adding that the NSCDC will be collaborating with the Nigerian Army, the Nigerian Police Force, the Department of State Services, and private security organizations for the Safe Schools Drive.
The Commandant General's drive is to ensure that those centers are not just at the level of state commands. The idea is that every local government in Nigeria should have a center that will be there to respond to schools issues, education issues. Security agencies have been saddled with a lot of responsibilities, but you could imagine the benefit of a center at its local government level where all security agencies are represented in there to get information from communities and share with all stakeholders for appropriate and timely response. You can just imagine the number of benefits we shall be recording.
Let's now take you to Edo State, where the governor, Godwin Obaseki, has presented a 325.3 billion naira budget to the Edo State House of Assembly for the 2024 fiscal year, which is a slight increase from the 320 billion naira budgeted for the year 2023. Obaseki, who presented the budget to the Assembly at the Anthony Enahoro Assembly Complex in Benin City, the Edo State capital, said the budget is made up of 178 billion naira for capital and 146 billion naira for recurrent expenditure. He also noted that with the budget, Christine budget home run finishing strong, his government intends to, despite the global economic headwinds and attendant implications for the national economy, marshal resources to complete ongoing projects across the state in furtherance of government's commitment to the well-being and prosperity of Edo State and sustain efforts to improve the ease of doing business, consolidate on key reform programs, and conclude on transactions needed to stimulate economic growth.
Mr. Speaker, members of this great House, the 2024 budget has been pristine. Budgets overall finishing strong. Despite the global economic headwinds and the attendant implications for the national economy, we intend to match up higher budgeted resources to complete all ongoing projects across the state in furtherance of our commitment to the well-being and prosperity of the states. We will sustain efforts to improve the ease of doing business, consolidate on key reform programs, and conclude all transactions needed to stimulate economic growth, which is a slight increase from the 2023 budget. The budget is made up of 178 billion for capital and 146 billion for recurrent expenditure. The budget is only slightly higher than the previous year's budget.
Still in Edo State, Andrew Okungbowa, the Chief Press Secretary CPS of Godwin Obaseki, the Governor of Edo State, has resigned from his position. He cited his dissatisfaction with the way he was treated as the reason for his resignation. Okungbowa's appointment was announced by Osaro Dion Ogie, the Secretary to the State Government SSG, just 5 months ago. Okungbowa's 3-paragraph resignation, which was obtained on Tuesday, December 5 in Benin by our reporter, was dated December 4, 2023 and addressed to Obaseki. Our reporter gathered that Okungbowa was not comfortable with the fact that the Edo governor rated much higher and treated quite better the unprofessional social media influencers in Government House Benin, which was described as unacceptable. It was learned that some high-ranking officials of the Edo government attempted to intervene in this situation, but the Chief Press Secretary had already made up his mind. In Enugu State, Governor Peter Mbah on Tuesday presented a 521.5 billion naira budget for the 2024 fiscal year before the State House of Assembly. The budget proposal, which he christened Budget of Disruptive Economic Growth, is the highest in the state's history, comprising 114.3 billion naira capital expenditure and 107.2 billion naira recurrent expenditure. Presenting the budget during plenary on Tuesday, Mbah said the 2024 to 2026 multi-year budget is named Budget of Disruptive Economic Growth. This is on the account of the fact that it is structured to drive growth in a markedly different pattern than we have attempted to do hitherto. On a sectoral basis, the economic sector got the highest in the capital expenditure distribution, which is 207.8 billion naira, followed by the social sector, which got 182.9 billion naira. However, education got 73.6% of the social sector allocation and 33% of the total budget, representing the highest in both instances. The Supreme Court has imposed a fine of 40 million naira on Mike Ozekome SAN for filing a frivolous, vexatious motion before the court in respect of Imo State governorship held in 2019. The senior lawyer was ordered in a ruling by Justice Tijani Abubakar to personally pay the 40 million naira fine to 4 respondents he dragged before the court. Those to be paid are the Action People's Party APP, Uche Nnadi, Uche Nwosu, and the Independent National Electoral Commission INEC. Justice Abubakar held in the ruling that the motion was a calculated design to demonize the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has imposed a fine of 40 million naira on Mike Ozekome SAN for filing a frivolous, vexatious motion before the court in respect of Imo State governorship held in 2019. The senior lawyer was ordered in a ruling by Justice Tijani Abubakar to personally pay the 40 million naira fine to 4 respondents he dragged before the court. Those to be paid are the Action People's Party, Uche Nnadi, Uche Nwosu, and the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. Justice Abubakar held the ruling that the motion was a calculated design to demonize the Supreme Court. The national chairman of the All Progressive Grand Alliance, APGA, Chief Edozie Njoku, has alleged a plot by the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to hold the party down. Recall that Njoku had recently said that the chairman of INEC, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, will be heading to jail for contempt. He accused the electoral umpire of refusing to recognize him as the national chairman of the party despite court orders. Recall that the MPF had on November 22, 2022, charged Njoku and the youth leader of the political party, Chukwuemeka Nwoga to court for allegedly conspiring with others at large to alter a judgment of the Supreme Court delivered by Justice Mary Peter Orderly. Universal health coverage cannot be achieved without involving the people who are supposed to benefit from these services. This was the consensus of speakers at the 2023 Biennial Conference of the Association of Public Health Physicians of Nigeria Lagos State Chapter, held in Lagos. Plus TV correspondent Love Ikuku tells us more in this report.
It was a gathering of public healthcare physicians and experts. They are here to brainstorm, exchange ideas, and learn new concepts in the public healthcare space. In every 2 years, the Lagos chapter comes together to critically look at topical public health issues affecting the state. Chairman of APHPN, Professor Yetunde Kuyinu, in her welcome address, encouraged everyone to take issues of their health seriously. She lamented the deaths of doctors and the Japa syndrome, which she said has created a crisis.
Every day, health workers of all cadres and disciplines leave the shores of this country in search for a better life. The debates on the push and the pull factors are never ending. Forecasters are projecting a growth and land close fireworks with 150 beds because of no human resource to manage it.
For his part, the chairman of the conference, Professor Oshibogun Akin, noted that universal health coverage is beyond finance. He maintained that involvement of the communities is germane to achieving great results.
You cannot achieve universal health coverage without the involvement of the people who are supposed to benefit from health services. You must involve the communities. So one of the things that we need to do to achieve universal health coverage is to make sure that our world health communities function, that our local government health authorities function, and that the citizens themselves are part of the decision making. Otherwise, you can spend all the money, you can mobilize all the money, but you will never get the health outcomes that you desire.
The wife of the Lagos State Governor, Dr. Ibijoke Sanwo-Olu, delivered the keynote address. She was represented by Ola Ibiyoye. She emphasized that the overall well-being of all Lagosians is of paramount interest to the governor.
Health and well-being of all residents is of top priority to the state government under the administration of His Excellency, Mr. Babajide Olusola Sanwo-Olu. This explains the reasons for the various initiatives and sustained interventions in the health sector to ensure the well-being and welfare of Lagosians in line with the Things Plus agenda of the Greater Lagos.
Simbo Bello, CEO of Avon HMO, stressed that collaboration with all stakeholders could just pull the string to achieving the sought-after universal healthcare coverage.
Really challenging the current situation we find ourselves in. Healthcare inflation is real. We all know in the press, social media, in recent times, you've seen the huge astronomical jump in cost of medication. So, this kind of problems can only be resolved when you have the two arms in healthcare working together and recognizing that both arms are under this huge financial burden, as well as the people we seek to serve. They are also under this huge financial burden. And there's no way of transferring the burden to one side. We all will take a hit together.
The theme of the conference is accelerating progress towards universal health coverage, building resilient health system. Love Ikuku Oyedoku, Plus TV News.
Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu says the Okpebi-Mende-Ojota Link Bridge and other arterial roads connecting it will be ready for commuters by the second quarter of 2024. Governor Sanwo-Olu, who stated this while speaking with journalists shortly after an inspection tour of the Okpebi-Mende-Ojota Link Bridge, the governor disclosed that the project conceived over a year ago is currently at about 65% completion stage.
but also to provide alternatives for our citizens, people that are coming from Toyin, Allen, Okwebi. How can they access, the Ojota Bridge? People from Maryland, how can they go on straight into Ikeja? So it will solve a lot of the alternative problems that we have either on Kudirat Abiola Road, even going as far as going towards Alausa. But I think what this has opened up to is that this is an economic development, and we're changing the face of traffic management, we're changing the face of commuting in Lagos, and we're changing the face of access to modern infrastructure, roads, and development.
Governor Sanwo-Olu disclosed that additional infrastructure such as walkway for pedestrians, bicycle lane, parking space to accommodate any broken down vehicles temporarily, and other complementing road infrastructure have been considered in the construction of the bridge.
I'm happy with the level of work that we've seen thus far. We're still on track with the commissioning, with the completion rather. We're still hoping that by the second quarter next year, towards the third quarter, they should finish this entire road construction so that we can hand it over to the citizens and also can be available. There's still going to be a bit of furniture that you're going to see on this bridge. Eventually, it will look like another iconic bridge in Lagos, which will be similar to what we have in Lekki, axis. And as you can see, there's enough room for cycling. There's enough room for pedestrian walking, even on the bridge. So we are going to, it's a total life change. We are going to be encouraging people that want to exercise, right, and want to move freely, and ensure that what we see in other developed nations are the kind of infrastructure development that we're doing in Lagos.
And in Benue State, the Benue State Governor, Reverend Father Hyacinth Ali, has sworn in 21 caretaker committee chairmen with a call on them to being accountable and transparent while carrying out their responsibilities. Speaking at the ceremony in Makurdi North, Central Nigeria, the governor said with the appointment, his administration has demonstrated determination to re-inject vibrancy in the administration of local government system as a third tier of government. He cautioned them against mismanagement of resources and charged them to provide the needed change in their respective council areas.
Some of these members, by the leadership of Chairman, they call it G22, Douglas Aika. We had waited for over 2 hours. It became an embarrassment, and we felt that they were out to sabotage not just this house, but the very important items that we are supposed to attend to this sitting.
Mr. Speaker, we are elected to this great amount of the Benue State Assembly to do justice to Benue people by holding the House to a ransom. Honorable Speaker, I want to second, without missing words, that such members desire and deserve to be suspended for a period of 14 working legislative days.
The honorable members should be suspended those against the has been suspended for a period of 2 weeks.
The deputy spokesman of the House of Representatives, Philip Agbese, has ordered the immediate removal of Governor Hyacinth Ali's portrait from his office. Agbese, who represents Ado, Okpokpu, Ogbadibo Federal Constituency of Benue State in the House of Representatives, said Ali is not fit to be a leader because he has no respect for democracy and no respect for the Constitution. This is coming against the backdrop of an alleged rift between Ali and Akume over political issues in the state. As in Benue State, the House of Assembly has suspended 4 members of the 10th Assembly for 3 months for constituting a clog in the way of the smooth running of the legislative business of the House. The suspended members are honorables representing Gwe West, Makurdi South, Konshisha, and Okpokpu State constituency respectively. The motion for their suspension was moved by the majority leader of the House, Honorable Sate Tise, and seconded by Honorable Peter Ibusu of Katsina Ala West State constituency. The House of Assembly also confirmed Governor Hyacinth Ali's nominees for the local government's caretaker committees. Still ahead, ex-Mauritanian President Mohamed Ould Abdel Aziz sentenced to 5 years in jail.
Is it for upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria?
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Bukky November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on Plus TV Africa.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
An African girl somewhere is sitting at home, accompanied by dreams that seem so far away. Africa is one of the continents with the highest out-of-school percentage in education, and girls are at an early disadvantage. The sub-Saharan Africa records about 18 million out-of-school girls. This gender gap extends to the tech space with a projection of only a 33% global female workforce representation in tech firms for 2022. Let us help change the stories and numbers. Africa Agility's Project Train a Girl campaign is working to help train African girls in tech. You can donate as little as $2 or 2,000 naira to help a girl in tech get her heels in the door. Visit www.africaagility.rallyup.com/PTAG to donate.
You're welcome back. You're still watching Plus TV News now. Let's take you to other parts of Africa, where a court on Monday sentenced former Mauritanian President Mohamed Ould Abdel Aziz to 5 years imprisonment for abusing his power to amass a fortune. Mr. Aziz had been on trial since January 25, along with 10 other personalities, including 2 former prime ministers, on charges of illicit enrichment, abuse of office, influence peddling, and money laundering. After several days of deliberation behind closed doors, the court found against him only illicit enrichment and money laundering. Mr. Aziz, 66, becomes one of the few former heads of state in Africa to be convicted of illicit enrichment while in power. The Sierra Leonean government announced on Monday 43 new arrests in connection with the November 26 coup attempt, bringing to 57 the number of people arrested since these events, the vast majority of them military personnel. The latest figures published on November 28 showed 14 people arrested, including 13 soldiers and 1 civilian. 57 people have been arrested since the failed coup, including 43 during the last weekend, declared the Deputy Minister in charge of Information, Yusuf Kiketoma Sandi, on state radio without specifying the location and circumstances of these arrests. These 57 people are 37 soldiers, 10 civilians, 4 soldiers dismissed from the army, 5 active police officers, and 1 retired, detailed Mr. Sandi. The names of the leaders of the coup have not been disclosed. Sierra Leonean President Julius Maada Bio promised on Saturday that the response to the events would be dedicated by respect for the law. In the early hours of November 26, men attacked a military armory 2 other barracks, 2 prisons, and 2 police stations and clashed with security forces at gunpoint. The United States announced Monday that it will refuse to grant visas to Ugandan officials who enforced a controversial anti-homosexuality law enacted in the East African country in May that includes penalties up to and including the death penalty. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said the measure would apply to Ugandan officials, both serving and former, and their family members if they are found to have played a role in the repression of members of marginalized or vulnerable populations. These groups include, among others, environmental defenders, human rights defenders, journalists. 10 years ago, Uganda cancelled another law imposing life imprisonment for homosexuals after international donors, including the United States, reduced their financial support. Senior Hamas officials joined Nelson Mandela's family as tributes to South Africa's first black president on the 10th anniversary of his death in the capital, Pretoria, on Tuesday, AFP journalist noted. South Africa, a fervent supporter of the Palestinian cause, is one of the countries most critical of the massive and deadly Israeli bombardment of the Gaza Strip in retaliation for the bloody attacks carried out by Hamas in Israel on 7 October. Nelson Mandela, who advocated freedom for the Palestinians, died in 2013 at the age of 95. Leaders from around the world, including the president of the Palestinian Authority, Mahmoud Abbas, were present at his funeral, but Israeli leaders did not attend. On Tuesday, the family of the anti-apartheid hero laid a wreath in front of the statue of him in front of government headquarters in Pretoria. Bassem Naim, former health minister for Hamas in Gaza, and Khalid Kadumi, representative of the Islamist movement in Iran, were present. In the preceding days, they had also taken part in a conference on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict organized by Nelson Mandela's grandson Mandela in Johannesburg. The African National Congress, ANC, South Africa's historic ruling party, last month supported a motion in the National Assembly calling for the closure of the Israeli embassy and the suspension of diplomatic relations in protest at the war. Up next, Nigeria's export grew by 60% as total trade hits 18 billion naira in Q3 2023. That's in business news after the short break.
Welcome to Business News. Huge crowd besieged banking halls as customers moved to link their bank verification numbers and national identity numbers to their bank accounts. This followed the new directive of the banking regulator to the banks on Friday to bar customers who were yet to link their BVN and NIN from having access to their accounts. The deadline for the link of BVN and NIN to every citizen's account is slated for March 1st, 2024, after which all the funded accounts or wallets shall be placed on post no debit or credit and no further transactions permitted on said accounts. Nigeria's foreign trade in the third quarter of 2023 rose by 53.16% year-on-year to 18.80 trillion naira. This is as crude oil revenue surged by 83.23% to 8.54 trillion naira in the quarter under review. In the third quarter of 2022, total crude oil sales amounted to 4.66 trillion naira. Buoyed by an increase in trade activities in the period, total exports increased by 60.78% to 10.35 trillion naira, according to the National Bureau of Statistics Foreign Trading Guild Statistics Report. The report released on Monday read in part, Nigeria's total merchandise trade stood at 18.80 trillion naira in Q3 2023. The value indicates an increase of 54.62% over the amount recorded in Q2 2023, as well as by 53.16% when compared to the value recorded in Q3 2022. The Nigerian Upstream Petroleum and Regulatory Commission has said the federal government is planning to revoke unused oil exploration leases that companies were granted but have not been able to carry out any exploration activities. The Chief Executive Officer, Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, Benga Komolafe, told reporters that only companies with viable technical and financial backup would get to keep their leases. Komolafe said the commission would initiate reviews of these leases and awards of new leases would be subject to specific terms and conditions. According to latest data from the NUPRC, although about 53 exploration leases were issued from 2003 till date, over 60% of the prospecting licenses issued to the local and foreign oil firms had expired. The sector had since been bogged down by low investment in exploration activities coupled with low crude oil production as a result of theft from pipeline vandalism. Nigeria's total exports in the third quarter of 2023 increased by 60.78%, valued at 10.346.60 billion naira, as the country's total trade stood at 18.804.29 billion naira. The National Bureau of Statistics disclosed this on Monday in its latest foreign trade in goods statistics, Q3 2023. According to the report, the total exports increased by 60.78% compared to the 6.435.15 billion recorded in the second quarter of 2023 and by 74.36% compared to the corresponding quarter in 2022. Meanwhile, Nigeria's total imports under review stood at 8.457.68 billion naira, a 47.70% increase from the value recorded in Q2 2023, which stood at 5.726.25 billion naira. Consequently, Nigeria recorded a positive trade balance in Q3 of 2023. The significant rise in exports and imports in the third quarter of 2023 compared to the preceding and corresponding quarters was primarily driven by an increase in trade activities within the period. And that's it on Business News. The news continues. I am Shade Uwe.
Coming up next is Entertainment News.
Nigerian singer Portable, whose real name is Habib Okikiola, has joined international celebrities at the British Fashion Awards 2023. The Zazuzes singer was filmed on the red carpet with British rapper Skepta, whose birth name is Joseph Olaitan Adenuga Jr. In line with the purpose of the event, which is a fashion award show, Portable wore a colorful suit and a pair of sneakers. He had his hair dyed in different colors to complete his signature look. Popular Yoruba actress Bisola Badmus has opened up on her battle with a brain drain disease. This was made known in a post on the actress' Instagram page during her birthday celebration. Badmus disclosed that she had been battling the disease for over 2 years. Brain disease is a disease that alters the mental state, leaving one confused and not acting like they usually do. Afrobeat sensation Davido is set to dazzle fans at the upcoming Bear With Us Festival 2. Organizers have confirmed the event date for December 27th. This year's edition is creating a buzz as Davido, often called OBO, gears up to deliver a sensational performance. With a string of chart-topping hits, he has captured the hearts of music enthusiasts across Nigeria. American celebrity couple Offset and Cardi B have unfollowed each other on Instagram. A quick check by Linda Ikeji blog on their respective Instagram pages on Tuesday morning showed that the rappers are no longer following each other on the platform. Both of them have also shared cryptic messages on their Instagram story, with Cardi B saying that she's going to start putting herself first. Offset shared a post on his story that seemingly showed he only trusts himself and not other people. Recall that the couple secretly married in 2017 and have since welcomed 2 children together. Cardi B filed for divorce from Offset in September 2020, but the two got back together in October. In June 2023, Cardi B publicly blasted Offset after he claimed she cheated on him.
That's the news now. For more stories, please follow us on Facebook, X, and Instagram, and do subscribe to our YouTube channel at Plus TV Africa and Plus TV Africa Lifestyle. You can also view us from Limex on limex.tv and Glow TV apps anywhere in the world. I am Ifeanyi Elumezim. Many thanks for watching. Good night.
Hello, welcome to Timeless Conversations. Today my guest is someone for whom I have a great deal of respect. Indeed, he's my trainer, my teacher. If someone has been your teacher once, you can't say he's my former teacher. So he's my teacher. He's an award-winning broadcaster, an icon in our industry, a very committed Nigerian. Please welcome Sonny Irabor.
I've been here over 50 years. Believe it or not, I've seen Lagos change in different directions. Of trying to show how totally, inconsiderate you can be, how unacceptable your actions can be, and how, you can actually get out of line, inflict injuries or wounds on innocent people, and just make people be afraid of you for the fun of it. Bullying. I saw, I'm doing a monologue. My guest is right here looking at me and wondering what's going on with Sonny. Thank you very much. And welcome too. It's like you're doing my job for me.
Yes, I'm doing your job for you now. Now, so you teach us. I recall that in 1982, I was one of the first people in your class. The very first class you had to take.
40 years ago.
40 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yes, I recall then that you would leave us in the class to quickly go take the network news, and of course by the time you came back the class was upside down, and then you tried to restore order. Let me ask you, why broadcasting?
I've said this times without number. There was a Dele Olowu, a great friend, was my senior in school, and that was in 1968. I heard his voice on Midwest Radio. The voice didn't change. It was just the same light, personable voice. And I said to myself, that must be Dele Olowu. That must be Dele Olowu. I said, okay, when I grow up, I'll be like him. But guess what? He came back to school that same day. I said, did I hear your voice on radio? Those days of rediffusion.
Rediffusion, yes.
And he said, did you listen? I said, yeah. I said, really? How did I sound? I said, great, But it never left my mind. I made up my mind one way or the other.
I will have to be a broadcaster. So to me, he was the influence.
That was your influence. But your trajectory started from the prison service.
Yeah. Well,
now called correctional service.
Is that what they call it now?
Yes, it's called the correctional service.
Hallelujah.
Now. Yes.
Well, would that correct them? But
Yeah,
anyway,
well.
let's go back to, you know, the idea of being in prisons was accidental.
Okay.
Or correctional center.
No, it was prison service.
Yes,
then,
at the time. And so I was living with my sister.
Yeah.
She was the officer in the Nigerian prisons. So she said, look, while you're waiting to go back to school, this was in 1971, come and work with us. I said, okay. So I joined, and I started enjoying myself. 1 year, 2 years, 3 years.
Yes.
Oh boy, time don't work out. So anyway, along the line, a friend came, Jones Hussein.
Jones Hussein, yes.
Then another friend, Iria Inakimio.
Good.
And another friend, Patrick Oke.
Yes.
And they were all from Radio
Radio
Nigeria.
Nigeria.
There was a place called the Sharp Corner.
Yes.
You know, and then
That's in Ikoyi, Obalinde.
yeah, no, on the Alagbon Close.
Alagbon Close, okay.
Yeah. And they would just come there, they would eat, some of them would drink. I never knew how to drink anyway, so I was like, oh, I wish I could just be like these guys. Then one day, Patrick and Jones said, you have the kind of voice that I think should make a good broadcaster. I said, really? Okay. So come, let's go. So we went to Radio Nigeria.
You had an audition?
No. Patrick Oke with Boma Kaliwo gave me a script to read. And I read, today I would say the email you are getting now. We read letters
Yes,
that took 2 weeks to arrive at the studio.
Exactly.
Maybe another 2 weeks to respond
processed,
to.
yes.
You know. And so it was called NBC Mailbag. Patrick was the narrator. I was the voice.
Ooh.
And sometimes Boma, who was the producer,
Yeah,
if there was
would
no other
voice
voice, she would join when there were too many letters. So the feedback mechanism we had was through that process.
That process,
where
yes.
people reacted to what programs they heard, no matter how long it took.
Yes.
But they reacted. And there was always a feedback.
A feedback, yes.
Yeah. So that gave me a leeway, and that was in 74. But in 76, I was sent to apply for a job.
Okay, now.
At Radio Nigeria.
Whoa.
Meanwhile, I was still with Alagbon Close.
Alagbon Close, yes. And so that's how your radio broadcast life started.
And I went for training in 1977.
That thing about training, in those days, people didn't go on the air as full-fledged broadcasters without training.
Yeah.
But these days, what do we have?
Well, talk about speed and time, you know, because in those days, people looked at perfection, and you have to be ready for the job psychologically and physiologically.
Yes.
And then also, you have to be prepared to be trained, and you have to show that you were trained for the job and ready to operate as a professional.
Sure.
So, as luck will have it, I was trained. After 3 months, I became a junior presentation assistant. Can you imagine? Junior presentation assistant.
Yes.
And then they said you could not go on air. Me, I was ready to go, but they said you could not go on air.
You'll be looking at the microphone like
I'll just be looking at, and then they now paired me with the likes of Jones Hussein.
Yes. Your
what
friend.
Now the Citizens Jones of
Max
Radio.
Max Radio, yes.
And I brought him down because of what he did to me.
Yes.
The first baptism of fire I had was when Jones started to read news at midnight. And then 1 minute into it, he said, Sonny, finish the news. He had cut off the mic. Sonny, finish the news. I'm not feeling good. You just have to finish the news. Me? How? I'm not allowed to finish the news. I can't. You're wasting more time.
And this is midnight.
Midnight. So grab Where did you stop? There. So my voice was so tiny.
Yes, then.
I wasn't sure whether I was hearing myself. I was really scared. And I said, okay.
That was fear.
And I read it.
Yeah.
I read, the sound of my voice was like, probably if Butterfly has a voice.
Yeah, that would have been like it.
Yes. You know, and I finished it, and he said, sign off. That was good. Sign it off, sign it off. And I signed it off. I never forgave him.
You didn't?
Till today, I'm not going to forget John Susan, and I'll go forgive him.
But
because I felt like going to the toilet.
Whoa.
I could not go to the toilet.
Yeah.
I had to finish the
news.
And it wasn't funny for me.
Yes.
I don't know if you, okay, imagine yourself driving a car and there's traffic.
Yeah.
On, say, the marina. And marina is an open space.
Yes.
And you feel like, you know,
Yeah.
going to the light one in the
Yes.
to the toilet.
Yeah.
And then what do you get?
You can't.
You cannot leave the car because it's moving, it's scrolling.
Yes.
You cannot go anywhere else to do whatever.
You have to do what they say, what they call whole body.
Hey, I was holding body. It was tough.
But then you rose to become one of the main voices on the Radio Nigeria Network News.
Glory to God for that.
For many years.
It was a baptism of fire.
But what was that experience like? The experience of being that voice that people looked forward to hearing.
I didn't know I was.
On the news.
I didn't know I was until they told me. Like you're saying it now.
Yes.
Well, there were times I felt, excuse me, that, okay, am I really the kind of person that would be that voice? I never saw myself as one. Because they were, can you beat Patrick Okey's voice?
No, you couldn't.
So,
yeah.
Or even you, your voice.
Yeah, well.
You know, so I think it was just a stroke of luck for me.
Well, what about the commitment that was required?
All right. Now that you say that,
yes.
Yes.
What
I
about
was
the
very
commitment?
committed.
Yes.
I was, and I was also particularly, I saw myself as somebody who had an assignment, and no matter what, I had to do it right. Because I was always told, put your best foot forward. Make the best of what you get, and try and live by it.
Yeah.
And then the rest is history.
The rest is history. Well, historically, you will recall that governments used to change in the Radio Nigeria studio. I, Major General, or I, Colonel so and so.
Joseph Navem Garba.
Exactly. Right.
Sani
Did any of those
Abacha.
coups catch you in the studio?
7.
7 caught you there.
Not in the studio.
Yeah.
But enough for them to come and pick me
They'll
at
pick
home.
you. Oh, yeah,
I think
naturally.
it was